right, everybody. Welcome back to the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing of South Florida. Little
so good.
Brief snippet of an intro video we're working on there for you guys. Thank you to my daughter for doing that. It'll continue to evolve, as they say. Ian has his Duke shirt on. He's watching the Dukies. So if we lose him at some point, you'll know why. Michigan's already lost because they can't make a shot from about 1.5 feet, but that happens. And so obviously there's hoops going on, but you are not here for that. You are here to listen to the latest and the greatest from SCB. And tonight we're going to dive into the quarterbacks, guys. We're going to dive into the draft guys, and it's been a hell of a whirlwind for Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin in the last 3 or 4 days. And of course, everybody is 100% certain that they know now who the Steelers are taking.
I mean,
and I say that as fucking tongue-in-cheek as possible. Ben?
Yeah, today they were definitely going to take Desmond Ritter. And yesterday it was definitely Matt Corral. And, for the week before that, it was absolutely going to be Willis. It was 100% it was Willis. Yeah. And then with Kenny Pickett's pro day, it was definitely Kenny Pickett. Definitely. Even though Mike Tomlin's got an office down the hall and didn't have to travel at all.
Right.
Goes to every Pitt pro day. No, Tomlin was there. It's definitely Kenny Pickett. Guys, slow your roll. They are doing due diligence on every single quarterback. And they have to. They'd be irresponsible not to. I mean, they're going to need a quarterback long term. They are. So just chill out. Let things unfold. And when they actually draft somebody, we can argue about that.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely have some words on that one. Anyway, thank you to the Pigskin Podcast Network for hosting us, along with our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook as well. We're going to jump into the potential quarterbacks in the draft. I do want to get your take on the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. When all the speculation started, I didn't really put much into it because I'm like, you know what? He's going to want a pretty good payday. He's towards the end of his career. I don't see it happening, but more and more teams keep dropping out. So, Ian, do you think it's possible the Honey Badger ends up in Pittsburgh?
It's possible. I mean, anything's possible. Sure. That said, I tend to not believe any story about a team being in or out until, we actually see, a deal get done. Right. Because sometimes, agents, players, sources, whatever, there's some people making claims out there about Tyrann Mathieu that have 120 Twitter followers and aren't a verified account. So I don't know how much I believe them.
I totally believe them. Those people have got all the sources. Their cousin's sister's buddy's mom is a secretary at the Steelers.
That's right.
She sees all the boards because they leave them unprotected. They leave all the office doors open.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so anybody can just walk in there and check out what's going on.
Yep. My father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate also said,
see how it works. Yeah.
That was also a Spaceballs reference.
Yes, it was very well played, Mr. Mel Brooks. Love it.
but at any rate, Tyreek Hill, today in his press conference in Miami, he got asked about the offer from the Jets or if the Jets were an option. He was kind of like, the fucking Jets? Like, no, I'm never going there, So in a sense, were the Jets ever in it, or were they ever an option? Maybe, maybe not. Or were the Jets in it to try and drive up the price of a division rival that Miami had to A, give up more draft picks, and B, pay him more. Right. And the Jets were kind of like,
the Jets were the fluffer.
Agent, you can use us as
the fluffer. I love it.
You can use us as leverage. So,
but Ian, in our discussion though I mean, you cannot discount the state income tax thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That is a big thing.
You can't. I mean, now there's some players where if you're making god awful amounts of money, it's not a big deal. But what did you figure it probably was? $7 or $8 million maybe difference?
Yeah, I think the reported numbers on Tyreek Hill's contract was $72 million guaranteed,
Okay,
basically. 50 some guaranteed at signing, another 20 guarantees next year. You take that 72 million guaranteed. Florida has like their top income tax bracket's like 10.9%. So you figure that's like $7 million, or sorry, New York's top income bracket is 10.9%. You figure that's about 7 million plus in income taxes to the state of New York he'd have to pay, versus Florida has no state income tax.
Right.
So
that's nice.
So that's more money in his
teams
pocket.
Visit New Jersey to play their games. They've got to pay New Jersey state income tax for that week. So that all kind of flies out the window. Yeah, they get their 8 or 9 games at home where they have no state income tax. But if they go to New Jersey or California or what's someplace else with a high income tax?
I think it's like New Jersey, California, New York, Hawaii,
Washington, Seattle.
Right.
You go there, you're paying state income tax that week.
Yeah,
that's just part of the gig. It goes with it. It also kind of levels the playing field when you're trying to sign free agents, like you're talking about right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's fair. And I remember it's probably a bigger issue in other sports. Like it was, I remember it kind of got cited when LeBron went to Miami, that it was like, oh, hey, but that's, 41 home games in Miami versus 41 home games in Cleveland, right? That's, I guess, a bigger difference.
And it's also Cleveland versus South Beach. I mean,
that's true too.
Is there really a comparison? I'm just saying.
Yeah. But back to Matthew, I mean, logistically on the field, he would be a great addition to our team.
Man.
I mean,
for sure.
He's much better, much more instinctive, and just better all around than Terrell Edmonds is or was, or
But
so.
But Matthew aside, and I'm asking you this, Ian.
Yes.
Matthew aside, do you see a better option than Terrell Edmonds?
If Matthew goes elsewhere,
I don't see a better option.
No, I don't either.
I mean, the only one I'd maybe consider, did Quandre Diggs sign anywhere?
I don't think so.
That was the other name I was potentially looking at.
Right.
Keanu Neil, I kind of see him as similar to Edmonds. I don't see him as any better or worse.
A little more injury history there too.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. But if the flip side of it is, if we don't get something figured out, then you kind of might have to push up safety as a priority in the draft too. So, but yeah, if we don't get Matthew, I would imagine they would start kicking the tires pretty hard on Terrell Edmonds.
Scarps, let me ask you real quick. If I'm in the Steelers facility, and let's just say I'm walking around, how easy is it for me to walk in and take a look at the draft board?
Oh man, this is it's like talking about Fort Knox right now.
That's kind of what I figured.
I mean, it's actually crazy. I thought about this earlier. It'll be 5 years in July since I left, but sometimes it feels like a long time ago. Sometimes it feels like it was yesterday. But to your point, they don't lock doors or anything like that. I won't give you precise coordinates, but it wouldn't be too hard to find, and it wouldn't be under lock and key.
Wow. Okay.
Personally, I remember I would walk down and BS with the scouts, or sometimes I'd actually have work to do. But and they used to have every team in the league, and they would have every roster with a little nameplate or whatever, and they would have numbers. They'd have a little nameplate that have numbers attached to it. So I basically learned what all those numbers meant, what the
grade was on that player.
Yeah, what the grade was, what the symbols meant, et cetera, et cetera. And by no means was that under lock and key. And I appreciated that. I've said this before, that Steelers, had a very open organization. It was they had open lines of communication. Everybody talked to everybody. Now, I'm not going to say that, people were taking pictures of the draft board and, send them or whatever, but no, it was, they were always there to help. And it was cool to get to learn about that stuff.
Absolutely.
But if you want to know exactly how to get there, you might have to pop me some money, Venmo or Cash App or what. I just sounded like Belichick. Is Cash App? I don't even know if that's real. I don't use any of that stuff. No Snap Face.
Cash App is the app by Square.
Zell me, Snap Face me.
I know PayPal. It's about all I know.
Quandre Diggs did resign with Seattle, so correcting my former statement that now, other than Matthew, no, I'd go after Edmonds.
Yeah,
I'd also consider someone in the draft too.
The good news, from my perspective, on that count is this: if Matthew doesn't sign with the Steelers, the player I'd most like to get is Edmonds because of the familiarity with him and his familiarity with the defense. But in the event that he's butthurt, which
is
he allegedly is because he's changed his social media somehow, he's taken the Steelers off of his social media and changed his picture, which is no longer him in a Steelers uniform. So it may be, maybe not. It's speculating. But let's just say he is and he doesn't want to come back. The drop off to the next best guy isn't that much. And yeah, granted, he's going to have to spend some time learning the defense and learning the personnel around him, but it's not the end of the world.
No, I don't think it is. I just think the familiarity and the durability are the two things I like in that particular spot.
So in retrospect, though, Terrell Edmonds' fifth-year option only would have been like $6 million and change, $6.5 million, give or take. Like, given where we are now, if we don't get Matthew, we're probably going to have to. We'd probably have to shell out more than that just to get Edmonds to come back for a time.
I think from, and I'm just trying to look at this from Kevin Colbert's perspective. From the team's perspective, having two guys, at both safety positions, both going into their last year and having to extend them simultaneously just would have been a huge headache. And so he went, let's give Edmonds an opportunity to go out to the market and see what he can get and see where his price is. And then let's try and meet that. And then, we'll sit down with Minka in July like they do every year.
Yeah.
And let's see if we can work something out with him because Minka's gonna make some money. Who else is gonna make a lot of money? Deontay Johnson, because they really should have extended him before free agency started.
God.
As things stand right now,
the Christian Kirk contract, man.
That whole $15 million a year for 5 years that he allegedly wanted in February, and fans were like, "No, are you kidding me?" The contract he's going to get is going to make all of you who thought that was outrageous absolutely apoplectic. You're going to be furious.
He's going to get 20 at least. Yeah.
Or he could just go to the Jaguars and they'll overpay him.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I mean, no, Ryan's dead right, and that's that's a factor in the market. Yeah. It's just like, hey, you got these teams that are overpaying guys. I can just wait a year. It's fine.
Yeah. Hey, quick reminder: we are presented by DEK Roofing of South Florida. DEK serves Broward and the Southern Palm Beach counties, whether it's commercial, industrial, residential, multifamily, or condos. Contact DEK Roofing today by visiting dekroofing.com. And are we ready to dive into these rookie or potential rookie quarterbacks?
Yeah. Sure, but before we do that, I want to ask you three a question.
Oh, do it.
What would you be willing to accept in trade for Mason Rudolph? Mark.
Well, I have right here a very nice, stylish SCB koozie that I would be willing to put in as a side piece to getting. No, I'm kidding. I'm gonna guess at best you can get a 6. That's what I'm thinking. If somebody offers you a 6, I think you probably take it. I don't know that you're gonna get anything more than that. And I'll Ian, what's your take?
I was pretty close. Yeah, I was gonna say. If anyone offers you anything better than a 5th, you take it right away.
You're dreaming. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, I mean, but that said, considering that Case Keenum, who's a better quarterback than Mason Rudolph, went for a 7th round pick.
Exactly.
I would be surprised if anyone offers anything at this point, especially because there's other kind of dominoes that have to fall in this quarterback train, right? Mm-hmm. That, Jimmy Garoppolo,
injury or something along those lines.
Well, not only that, but you've got Jimmy Garoppolo, who has a massive cap hit that the 49ers are looking to get rid of. You've got Baker Mayfield, who has an $18 million cap, $18.8 million cap hit, which is fully guaranteed for this year. And the Browns are trying to get some value for him, but teams, rightly so, are saying, hey, why would we give up any kind of asset to get this guy when you're probably going to cut him anyways? So we'll just wait for you to cut him, and then we can sign him for less than that $18.8 million.
If I'm Mason, I'm hoping to get cut, and I will insist that you sign me year one for the minimum salary, because that'll be all the offset dollars the Browns will get, and he'll get to fuck them on the way out.
You mean Baker? You said Mason.
Baker, yeah, you said Mason.
Excuse me. Yeah, I meant Baker.
I knew what you meant. Yeah. Ryan, what can the Steelers get anything for Rudolph if somebody made a phone call?
Right now, if I'm the Steelers, I at this point, I don't try to trade him, because I don't know what they're going to do in this draft. I don't.
Yeah, I don't think they will now.
I mean, they
in the event that they drafted a quarterback, that's the scenario we're talking about.
In the event that they drafted a quarterback, oh, hi, girl. In the event,
good dog.
What's her name?
Tucker. He's a he.
Sorry, Tucker.
Tucker, knock it off.
Tucker.
Damn kids.
Tucker, it's okay. I apologize. Even if they draft a quarterback, I wouldn't trade Mason unless they got something for him, because there's a realistic chance if Mitch sucks or gets hurt that Mason is your number 2, regardless of if they draft anyone. So I know Mason. I know you don't like Mason, and I know most people don't like Mason, but there is no chance they're going to get anything valuable for him. So just keep him for a year.
Got him under contract.
I tend to agree. I think if you get offered a draft pick at all, you would take it. A 7, whatever, anything, you take it. And I'm being serious. I'm not being funny. If I were Kevin Colbert, I would accept some Seattle fish and chips in return from Mason Rudolph. And I'm not kidding. But seriously, if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, we want Mason Rudolph. Here's a 6th or 7th round draft pick," you take it and you move on.
I agree.
And that's only in the event that they draft a quarterback, because you've got to have another one. I agree with what Ryan's saying. You got to have another one. You don't just willy-nilly go and trade a guy like that out, because you need him right now.
Well, and let's segue to that. And I'm going to go in the order of the way things went this week. Monday saw Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert take the extremely long walk down the hallway to watch Kenny Pickett in his pro day. And, there was only one other head coach there, Matt Rule from the Carolina Panthers, and they are as desperate for a quarterback as any team I can remember. And they gave him the once over on the whole. Kenny, will you hold the ball so we can see your hand with the ball? They did that whole thing because he's got the small hands and everything else. But
it's more the double jointed. He's double. It's not that his hand is small. It's that when you measure it, because of how he's double jointed and how his thumb curls, it measures small.
So he went, I believe he was 8.5 at the combine, and he measured like a quarter inch.
5/8. Yeah, he's been
bigger
doing hand stretches.
Yeah,
an 1/8 of an inch bigger.
Yeah. So look, Ben, I'll start with you. Kenny Pickett sitting there at 20. Do the Steelers take him?
I hope not, but maybe.
All right, well, let's dive into why. Why not? Why do you hope?
Why not? Because I think his ceiling is slightly lower than Derek Carr. That's as good as he's ever going to be. And there's also a good likelihood that he'll never be a competent NFL starter. And I'll be frank, there aren't even 32 of those guys in the world. And I tell people this all the time.
Mm-hmm,
I'm like, this is kind of the way you got to measure it. Just because a guy's a first round pick doesn't mean he's going to be an NFL starter.
No.
People assume that,
right?
But that's not the case.
Right.
People are so desperate. Teams are so desperate for quarterback talent. There's such a dearth of it that they reach. And they take guys sooner than they should. And, the guys in this draft class, it's a weird class. I mean, even Willis is an absolute boomer bust prospect. If you take Willis, you are swinging for the fences. You're hoping he develops into a guy in a couple of years, like a Lamar Jackson, in a couple of years.
Right.
First year, he shouldn't play at all.
Well, okay, so let's just throw them all in here together because I think it's hard to not discuss Pickett, Willis, Ritter, Howell, and Corral here all at the same time. Why? I guess for the listeners, why is Malik Willis a guy that can't play right away? Ian, I'll let you take that one. What is it about him that he can't play right away? If Kenny Pickett can play, why can't he?
Well, Kenny Pickett, let's not forget, is also like 25 years old. He's a fifth, sixth year senior.
True.
He's been around for a long time. There's quarterbacks in the NFL now who are still younger than Kenny Pickett is. Starting quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. Well, Lamar Jackson, who has been in the league for 3 years now, 4 years.
Yeah.
So
he's 20.
I think he's 24 now.
No, he's young.
He's going on 15.
I digress.
Yeah, he'll be 25 this year. And
he's
been in the league for 4 years already. It's just friggin' weird.
Yeah. So at any rate, though, Malik Willis still has a bit of developing to do in his mechanics. He talked about it his pro day. He talked about trying to work on his footwork, working on his lower body and his base and things like that. And that takes, you don't learn that stuff overnight, right?
No,
that takes time. That takes, because it's not just learning what you need to do, it's the muscle memory, right? You have to practice it so much that it's just instinctive and intuitive that when you're going to throw the ball, this is how you set your feet and square up and how you torque your body. That it has to just be that muscle memory.
You would almost compare it to somebody trying to learn how to golf. Learning how to maybe or change their golf swing a little bit. How do I correct this to teach my body this is what I want to do?
Yeah, and I think golf's a good analogy too, because golf, you have different size clubs. So swinging a driver, right, is a lot different than how you swing a wedge, because you have to, they're different lengths. Yep. So similarly, Malik Willis has all the arm strength in the world, right? He's the golfer who can bomb at 300 yards down the fairway, but can't stick a wedge shot on the green, right? That kind of needs to learn some of those the finer points of it, right? Or maybe his chipping isn't as good, or his sand play, whatever you want to call it, right? That he just has to learn some of the finer mechanics of it, and that long ball that he threw at his pro day, it was impressive. But if you watch his body, I mean, he torqued up so much that he put his whole body into that throw. That was basically everything he had in his, not just his arm, but his his legs were swinging forward. It's like I'm trying to think of another analogy. It's like a golfer. We'll go back to golf, right? It's like a golfer that tries to swing so hard that he loses his plant feet and just comes out of his stance and spins around after he swings the club, because he's putting so much into the swing. Can he get more strength behind the ball with better technique, with better lower body technique? Yeah, absolutely. But it's something that takes time and you have to learn. So Willis also, when you watch his tape, makes some questionable decisions, and just getting that experience at the NFL level where things are a lot faster than they are at the high major college level, and then when you consider he played at Liberty. Like it's I'm not saying that just because he played at Liberty he can't play in the NFL. There's plenty of NFL quarterbacks that have come from non-major schools, and they can make that transition. It takes time to learn, and you have to be willing to kind of put in that time with him.
Ryan, let's just for
that said, if I had to take one quarterback in this class, I would gamble on Malik Willis. All that said, if I had to take one, I would gamble on him over anyone else.
We'll come back to that type of scenario. Ryan, let's just say you're a Pitt fan, and you're all in on this Pickett guy. Are you able to see and make a clear, objective opinion on him, or does your Pitt fandom come in too much here? Because I see this a lot on social media. People just think he's the second coming of Dan Marino, and therefore, if the Steelers don't draft him, we're going to screw ourselves again. Where do you fall on this?
So Pitt, I am a Pitt fan, but Pitt has been searching for a quarterback ever since Dan Marino left.
Yep.
And even though they've had some good ones, Alex Van Pelt, Rod Rutherford, and now I'm talking about guys that I grew up watching, Rod Rutherford and John Turman and David Priestley.
No mention of Peterman?
Yeah, really. Where's the Peterman reference?
No disrespect. But Pitt, I tweeted this the other day, and this is if Kenny Pickett, and I believe Kenny Pickett is going to Carolina. If Kenny Pickett starts every game next year, that's 17 starts.
Yeah,
he will have the second most starts ever in the NFL by a drafted Pitt quarterback other than Dan Marino.
Yeah, you're right.
So
right.
That's how thirsty, whatever the young kids say, that Pitt fans are. Okay. I'm not saying Kenny Pickett isn't good. Kenny Pickett has a chance to be good.
Yeah.
But as Ben said, he's like a Derek Carr, which isn't bad. It's not bad at all.
No,
but has Derek Carr ever won a playoff game?
No. And Derek Carr has a stronger arm than Kenny Pickett.
100%. Derek Carr, that's the other thing too. Derek Carr, and I'm not critiquing him because Derek Carr can sling the ball. I like Derek Carr, and I root for Derek Carr is the guy I root for. Like, he just seems like a good guy. Anyway, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, but getting back to the Kenny Pickett thing, you know what? I'm gonna tell you this right now. If the Steelers don't draft Kenny Pickett, whether or not he goes to the Carolina Panthers at 6, there will be a set of fans, and it might not be that big, but there will be a set of fans that can't separate their Pitt fandom from their Steelers fandom and will say the Steelers didn't do enough to get Kenny Pickett because this is just like 1983 again with Dan Marino.
Yes.
And they will stand by that, even though 90% of them weren't even born in 1983, let alone alive in 1983.
Absolutely.
But the point is that they got their Pitt colored glass. I call them Yinzer colored glasses. They got the Yinzer colored glasses on.
Are they black or gold?
It's a combination.
They're gold. They're gold if they include Pitt. Yeah.
A little Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road shaded, But the point being is that, listen, oh my God, you don't bring in Mitch Trubisky if you think Kenny Pickett is going to be there or you're going to go after him. You bring in Mitch Trubisky because you're going to look at a guy like Malik Willis. And and listen, and this is a separate conversation, but I'm going to say this. They solidified the O-line. They massively upgraded the O-line in free agency. Yeah. And at this point, they need help at outside linebacker and wide receiver. And then they definitely need starting safety. And then they need some help at running back, etc. But if they take a quarterback and it's Malik Willis in the first round, who gives a shit? I don't even care. Like that. Good. They did their job by getting a better offensive line. That's what we all wanted. We're so spoiled as Steelers fans.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Well, it's funny because this week, there were a lot of people on social media bitching about the fact that Colbert and Tomlin didn't go to Ohio State's pro day. And it's
they
like
were looking at fucking quarterbacks.
Exactly. You know that, and I know that, but it was hilarious to me. Absolutely hilarious to me that people are screaming.
You guys watch Matt Corral's workout?
But
Did you watch it?
It wasn't good.
When you're missing scripted throws at a pro day, that is a red flag.
Yeah. No,
okay, that guy's not a first round pick. Sorry.
Corral scares me. I think Corral scares me more than any of the other quarterbacks in this draft.
Really?
Maybe some of it's because of Lane Kiffin's offense, that Lane Kiffin quarterbacks don't usually translate well to the NFL. He gives them a lot of, simplified reads. There's a lot of, kind of design your own running plays. There's some, I don't know, I don't trust Lane Kiffin quarterbacks, and Corral, I think, has a little of that kind of Baker Mayfield cockiness to him that, I don't know. I feel like maybe Corral will be good, but I trust him less than I would trust any of the other prime guys.
He's a tough kid. I think he plays hard. I admire the way he plays. I respect it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he's kind of that Kiffin system guy. And he just, his history of getting banged up speaks for itself. I don't know how long I would trust him to stay healthy either, with all that said. His pro day, and understand, everyone that's listening, when these guys host pro days, these are all scripted. They already have done these throws dozens of times. They know exactly the throws they're doing. They know when they're going to do them. So it's whether they start short, go to intermediate, go deep, or whatever it is, they know. So, and by the way, there's no pass rush and nobody covering the receivers. So you should not be missing throws. When we hear every once in a while about a quarterback at a pro day, oh my God, the ball never touched the ground. It shouldn't touch the ground. If you're going to be an NFL quarterback and you're throwing against air, essentially, it shouldn't touch the ground.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he had some struggles. And then the next guy, of course, was today in Cincinnati. You had Desmond Ritter. And man, look, Ritter tested really, really well at the combine. Great athlete. But Ben, you mentioned it today in our chat that decision-making is a little questionable. And I'm telling you, it pops on film. You see it, that he gets in a tough situation and he just kind of goes boom.
And it's like, what the hell was that? Why did you do that? Of all the options you had in front of you, why did you pick that one? It's it's weird. And today was a mixed bag on his throws. He had a couple of throws early that were great throws. This was not a telecast throw. There were people there reporting on it. And he had a couple of throws initially that were very good throws, and then he had some throws that were really, really bad. And it wasn't that his receiver wasn't doing him favors. They were bad throws.
Bad throws.
So, again, we're talking about a guy who's not a first-round pick. Mm-hmm. And honestly, if they weren't quarterbacks, none of these guys would be going in the first round this year.
No.
None of them.
And if they were in any other draft with, like let's say last year's draft, every one of these guys would be in the second or third round.
Yeah, even like Pickett and Willis, those two would be high second-round guys.
Yeah.
They're probably going to be high first-rounders because they're quarterbacks.
Well, don't forget that, there were reports of multiple scouts from Ohio State's pro day saying, I wish I could take CJ Stroud this year because he's better than all the other quarterbacks in this draft class.
Yes,
he's way better.
He is, yes.
I would like to think the Steelers are going to be in a position next year to take this guy, but I don't think they are. I think it's going to be one of these deals where he's going to be like the unquestioned number one overall pick, and we're going to have to be like, well, how do we trade into that spot? Okay, we can't.
Yeah.
Because the Steelers only have 6 draft picks next year. And based upon who they've signed already and the free agents they've lost, they have 0 compensatory picks coming. None.
True.
So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
It makes a trade up this year less likely. It makes a trade up next year less likely. It's a tough spot.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point too. That I've said this before, and I'll say it again. There is no quarterback in this class that I would trade next year's first round pick for.
Absolutely not.
You know, if you're gonna trade up, the highest I would consider going is 10, because that's kind of the Devin Bush deal, 20 to 10.
Right.
You know, basically that package. But you know, I would not trade next year's first round pick for any quarterback in this draft class.
Full agreement on that. Do we all think, Ryan, I'll start with you. Are we all kind of in agreement that both Pickett and Willis will probably be gone by 20?
Yeah, I'd be really surprised if Carolina doesn't take one of the two.
Right.
And then I'd be really surprised if Seattle doesn't take the other.
Seattle or Washington. I agree with you.
Yeah, and then Washington's 11, Seattle's 9.
Seattle's 9, Washington's 11 or 12. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Where's Atlanta? Because suddenly they've got a hole to fill.
No,
but
they got
Mariota.
I mean, he's like.
Okay. Is that who they re-signed? Okay.
Yeah, with Arthur Smith. Yeah. So.
Okay. All right.
But I would say this: what if?
I would say Duke's losing, and I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, it's Texas. Texas deep. It's all right. Listen, Duke.
Arizona's losing by 10.
It's okay. They're second half teams. According, I got,
That was your NCAA tournament update right there.
Yeah, but no, I would be, Ben. You talked about this earlier, and Steel Dad, you brought up the question. But if let's say Willis goes early, let's say he goes to the Panthers.
Yeah,
I don't know who takes Pickett then. I don't know, and that's the thing. Like, you don't necessarily.
Rivera would take a Pickett,
right? You think that? So I don't think Pickett's going to be there at 20. What I see unfolding is Pickett goes to Carolina, and then Willis probably goes to Seattle. If Willis doesn't go to Seattle, which is at 9, I could see the Steelers potentially trading up to 10, and I think the Jets have 10. I could see that happening, and Yinzer Nation's heads would explode.
It would go nuts.
But not again.
I really hope they don't. I
agree.
I really hope that
I agree too. But
their picks and
I agree.
Try and fill other positions.
I don't think Mitch Trubisky is that awful. I'm not saying he's going to lead this team to the promised land by any stretch. But I think you can get away with him for a year or two, to the point where you shouldn't have to trade up to get a guy who's going to sit on the bench for a year or two, at least in my opinion. But I don't know.
Pickett, you're not going to sit on the bench for very long, in my opinion. That doesn't mean that he's a better prospect than Willis. Right. It just means that he's got a lower floor.
He's more pro-ready now.
And as we were talking earlier, in fairness to Pickett, he's 23. He'll be 24 in June. Okay. Lamar Jackson's 25. Justin Herbert's 24. Joe Burrow's 25. But the age comparison that Ian was making is a fair one. I mean, he's an older guy already. He'll be 24, and there are guys that have been in the league for, years that are starters that he's at their age. And it's not like he's going to get much better. That's one of the reasons that teams don't like to take players that are 23, 24, is that they don't get much better. They don't improve. You want to take guys that are young, as Tylen puts it, he likes to get them for their senior year. He likes to get them into the system in their senior year and work them that way.
Well, we talked about this last year, that Najee Harris was the first player that they'd taken in a long time that had been a senior or who had been over 22 years old. That it was kind of a pick that changed from their historical trends. The one other thing I'll say about trading back, up,
though, I mean, what are you gonna get out of him? 5 years?
Yeah.
Bye.
So the one other thing I'll say about trading up is if Willis or Pickett make it past Houston at 13, and Houston needs a quarterback and
that's a good call, Ian.
Has a pick at 3 and has a pick at 13. All right, Baltimore's not trading with us at 14, but
No. Really?
But the Eagles have 2 picks in a row at 15 and 16. The Saints at 18 also need a quarterback. So, like, moving from 20 to one of those Eagles picks at 15 or 16 wouldn't cost us all that much. You know, maybe a third.
Yeah, but if you're the Saints and you want a quarterback, and it's even cheaper for you to move down to 15 or 16.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
but
yeah. I mean,
but with Hill and then Winston coming back, you don't think they'll sort of muck it up for a year?
I mean, I would say
Hill
more
is
likely,
awful,
Ryan.
god awful. But if Winston's coming,
I'm just saying.
Back,
I think it's a good point.
They just re-signed him.
Oh,
right. They did just re-sign.
They re-signed Winston.
I'm just saying, if you're gonna trade up, I would be looking at those Eagles picks just to try and get in front of New Orleans. But like, I wouldn't go higher than that. I wouldn't try and go after 10 or 12 or anything in that range.
Let me segue real quick. We'll come back to some of these. I just want to remind
everybody what they should do is trade down with Kansas City and let the Chiefs take a wide receiver. And
how can I do these ad reads when you guys keep interrupting?
Because we have good ideas or terrible ideas. I don't know. We're bullshitting. We've had some drinks, Mark.
You try to host a damn show, Ron. No. College basketball fans join the action on the court during the biggest tournament of the year with DraftKings Sportsbook. Turn your team's victory into your own big win. New customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. It's that simple. If they win, you win. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN. Bet $5 on any college hoops team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. If they win, you win with promo code TPPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook. 21 and over. Restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All right. Now, back to the question at hand here. Ian, you were talking about the Chiefs there trading possibly.
I was just saying that if you want to trade down, and I mean, I don't know. I agree with Ryan. I think Pickett's going to Carolina at 6. I think Willis and Mark, don't jump through your computer at me, but I would not be stunned if Detroit took Willis at 2. Like, that's kind of the dark horse to me.
Yeah, that wouldn't really shock me. I would be honest with you. That honestly, that would not shock me.
Well, it's funny because I talked to my Detroit guys today, and they're kind of all over the place. They feel like they know Willis is talent-wise, potential-wise. There's that word potential.
I can't even keep track. Who's their coach now?
Dan Campbell.
Quinn?
Campbell.
Oh yeah, Dan.
Dan Campbell's still there. He didn't get fired.
No. They like him.
So what's the over/under? Is that this year or next?
You know what? They love it. They think he's going to get this thing turned around. I
was about to say Bobby Ross.
But oh my God.
Yeah.
So Bobby Ross was a far superior coach to any of the coaches that
Danny Smith. Danny Smith was
the only problem with Bobby Ross is Bobby Ross is the one that ran out Barry Sanders.
He did.
All right. So
be that as it may,
I think Carolina takes Pickett at 6. I agree with that. The wild card also.
I really feel bad for any quarterback that has to play for Matt Rule.
I think the Giants, if Carolina takes Pickett at 6 and Willis is still on the board, I think the Giants openly shop that 7th pick to whoever wants to get up in front of Atlanta and Seattle, because the next 2 picks you have Atlanta and Seattle.
That would be really smart.
So I could see Washington, I could see Houston.
Houston says they're not taking a quarterback this year.
Mills' numbers were not terrible.
They're going to build around him, and they want to build the team up first.
Well, the other wild card is how sold are the Eagles on Jalen Hurts, right? If you're the Eagles and you have 3 first-round picks, do you trade up and take?
If I'm running the Eagles, and for some reason one of the 2 quarterbacks is still there, in the middle of the first. Yeah, I'm either moving up or I'm going. We're taking that guy.
There's a lot of uncertainty in front of us, and the draft I always go back to is the 2011 draft. because, there were a bunch of teams that reached on subpar quarterbacks and passed on really damn good players. So, just going through that 2011 draft, Cam Newton went number 1. But after that, at number 8, Tennessee took Jake Locker. At number 9, Dallas took Pro Bowl tackle Tyron Smith. At 10, Jacksonville took Blaine Gabbert. At 11, Houston took J.J. Watt. And then, at 12, Minnesota took Christian Ponder. And then, Detroit took Nick Fairley, who was a pretty good defensive tackle. The Rams took Robert Quinn, who was a Pro Bowl pass rusher.
Still is.
The Dolphins took Mike Pouncey, who was a Pro Bowl center. The Redskins took Ryan Kerrigan, who's a Pro Bowl defensive end. So you had 3 quarterbacks go between 8 and 12, and all of those teams passed on. There were 5 Pro Bowl players that were, kind of on the board there too.
To me, that's indicative.
Christian Ponder
could have been
great if he was better, more talented, but he wasn't. So
no.
Well, and all those teams taking those quarterbacks also enabled Cam Hayward to fall to the Steelers, so that kind of worked out pretty well.
True.
Good point.
The point is, and I wasn't on the show last week to talk about the Steelers' free agent moves, but other than safety, I really feel like the Steelers have set themselves up to take the best player available in the first round of the draft.
Yeah.
Safety right now is the only position we need a starter at, so they can really say, okay, this guy is the best player available. If it's a quarterback, great. If it's not a quarterback, great, because they have other holes they could fill over time. They could take a corner. They could take a safety. They could take an inside linebacker. If Nakobe Dean is there and they take...
Oh, my God.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I would even take Devin Lloyd from Utah over some of the quarterbacks in this draft.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of other
if
options.
Something like that happens, basically they're telling Devin Bush, we're going to go ahead and give you permission to seek a trade.
Yeah. Well, or just not pick up his 5th-year option, right?
Which they're probably not going to do anyway.
Yeah.
It's been an awful lot of time scouting inside linebackers this year.
They have. Is there, the one guy we haven't really talked about quarterback wise is Sam Howell out of North Carolina, and
wide receiver
for good reason.
Wide receiver.
Well, here's what I'll say about Howell. When I watch him play, he reminds me exactly of what he is. He's an athlete. He's a really good baseball player. He throws the football like a baseball player does.
Yeah, he does.
It's an above average arm. He can throw it at different angles. But there's an awful lot there that is concerning, and I keep seeing a lot of people for some reason think he's the sneaky guy that the Steelers really like because they've talked about him or paid him the least amount of attention. And I don't see it personally. I don't see it. But,
I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
I would give me 100 times out of 100 if Malik Willis fell to 20. And the Steelers drafted him, I would rather have that than the Steelers to bring Sam Howell on this roster in any way, shape, or form, whether that's drafted or whatever. Well, it's wasted. Early mock drafts had the Steelers picking that guy.
Oh, I know. Some of them still do. But
I'm sorry. Listen.
Yeah, and let me just add this one point too.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Well, everybody is screaming, we got to get a quarterback. We got to get a quarterback. We got to get a replacement for Ben. We can't go through the 80s, blah, blah, blah. Many of those same people are the ones that will bitch if we draft Malik Willis at 20. They'll say, now we got a guy that's going to be a project. Going to have to wait around.
That's because he's not going to play for 2 years.
Exactly.
Honestly, and he won't. But I agree with Ryan. I'd rather have that potential on the roster than a guy like Sam Howell.
As would I, but all I'm saying is, there's going to be a group that will bitch like that.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
And again, I said this earlier. I at least me was like, build the line.
Yes.
Three key free agent signings on the offense. 2 or 3. Can't count. Anyway.
2 on the O-line.
2 on the O-line. 2 on the O-line plus depth is a 3. I'm making up math as we go along. Yeah. But the point is they've improved their offensive line via free agency, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now making a move in that first round at quarterback isn't so far-fetched. Okay.
I agree.
And again, yeah, they need help at wide receiver. They need help at outside linebacker. They need a starting safety. And you know what? And I'm going to keep saying this every week. They need a change of pace running back. They need a Tony Pollard type.
Yep.
No offense to Gunnar Olszewski, or is that right?
Gunnar,
Great Pittsburgh name. No offense to Gunnar, but
he's not a running back. He's a
receiver.
No, but I'm saying if I said Tony Pollard type, because Tony Pollard returns kicks too. But I'm just saying, like I don't care who it is, somebody on this team that has speed and whatever. But they did what they needed to do on the offensive line, at least in my opinion, to solidify that. So
I'm going to throw a wrench in here. What if Jordan Davis is available in the first round?
I would absolutely. If he's the best player available,
I'm saying.
If he's the best player available, yes, because it sounds like Tuitt's coming back. I don't know for a fact, but still, Cam Hayward's getting a little bit older. No disrespect, Cam, but Hayward's getting older.
Yeah.
Tyson Alualu's older. He's older than Cam.
Yep.
So, and you know what? And here's the crazy part about this. If you got drafted by the Steelers and you were a defender, you had to wait a year to play.
Yes, in the old days you did.
This is like we're in this like, and I get it. I totally get it. It's a different day and age, but like Cam Hayward didn't start his first 2.5 years.
It's true.
Like you used to have to, like, that was the way it is. So if Davis is available and they get him and he doesn't play his first year, like he gets a red shirt year, gets the reps, gets the mental reps, who cares? Like we're so infatuated about what have you done for me lately? And it's just like, that's not always how it works anymore.
No, you're exactly right.
Yeah. I'm okay, boomer. Okay.
Sam Howell's a less good Andy Dalton. He is the product of the pieces around him.
Interesting.
That
don't say that about Andy Dalton. I like Andy Dalton. That's fair though.
Was dirty red, baby.
Yes.
Yeah. Andy Dalton wasn't a multiplier though, right? He was
fair.
Good when he had good receivers to throw to. He was bad when he had bad receivers to throw to. 2 years ago when when North Carolina had Williams and Carter at running back, plus had Dimey Brown and
they had another receiver.
What's the other guy? He got drafted in like the 6th round.
Yeah.
He was a real speedster. He was a real burner.
Yeah, I can't think of his name.
Oh crap! But at any rate, he had 2 good receivers, 2 speedy receivers, plus 2 running backs that could make plays. He looked really good. And then last year, when he didn't have those skill players around him, he looked really bad. Like he's not a multiplier.
He's not going to make people better.
Yeah. To win in the NFL, like you can get by with guys that are just guys, but you're not going to go far in the playoffs. You need guys who make the people around them better. And Ryan, to his credit, has brought this up a lot that, Ben got dudes paid in their careers because Ben was a multiplier and made guys around him better.
What Ben did was he made sure touchdowns were scored when they were in the red zone.
Yes.
And he sprinkled the ball around to his guys. And as a result, yes, I agree. Guys got paid.
Yeah.
He also forced the ball to a guy that used to wear 84 for the Steelers. Whether we choose to accept
that guy was pretty good. He was. I agree with you. I agree with the point that you're making. He did force the ball into him a lot,
and he actually forced the ball to him more than Tom Brady did. So
yeah. AB even mentioned that.
Yeah.
But the broader point is, you look at the quarterbacks in this draft class, right?
Yeah.
Does Kenny Pickett make the guys around him better? Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
I'd say so. Yeah. if we're comparing him to Derek Carr, look at what Derek Carr did with the receivers he had.
Guys like playing for Kenny Pickett. You can see it when he plays. There's no doubt about it. I can't argue that.
They like Pickett.
Yeah.
Malik Willis can absolutely make the guys around him better when he's on. I kind of see, like, if you play Malik Willis this year, he could very well break Jameis Winston's 30-30 record of 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. It might be
35 and 35.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's possible. There's a lot of wow and a lot of what. There's a lot of boom and a lot of bust there.
Yeah,
I believe it's a lot of wow and a lot of what the fuck.
Yeah.
That's the way I was like, what? What?
And I can't. I want to say this. I can't stress this enough. And I said this to a group of my friends when Saquon Barkley was coming out of Penn State. I said that Saquon Barkley could potentially be a bust, and everyone was like, "You're fucking stupid! Like, you don't know what you're talking about." And maybe because they went to whatever they were Penn Staters or whoever, and it all depends on. Actually, it doesn't depend on multiple factors. A stable organization, a group around you.
Yeah.
So Saquon's a great player, but has he achieved what we thought he would? Maybe that first year or second year, but
the challenge there, in my opinion, has been two things. One, the offensive line isn't that strong.
It's worse than Pittsburgh's.
They ran his wheels off.
Yeah, it's stability. You would say by the organizational stability.
Right.
So I'm looping this back to Kenny Pickett. So if everybody's pissed, yeah, Kenny Pickett would have a better chance at succeeding if he was a Steeler. But he's not going to be a Steeler. He's going to be a Carolina Panther, and he's probably not going to be any good. And you're going to judge his legacy based on that because he went to a shitty organization.
Well, he'll probably
not a shitty organization. Not a shitty organization.
Shitty coach.
But he's going to an organization that is, what, 1997? 96. 96.
Yep.
He's going to an organization that has had success. They've had success with Kerry Collins. They've had success with Cam Newton.
Yep.
But I don't think they have
Jake
the coach. No disrespect to Jake Delhomme. They took the Patriots to the wire.
Yeah.
But he could potentially go into an organization that is not as stable as others. And he won't be as good because of that.
Well, I mean, clearly he'll have a good first 3 games, and then Christian McCaffrey will be out for the season, and then it goes to shit. So
and my fantasy team is over.
Exactly. Yeah, I think.
Please, God, don't talk about your fantasy football team during the Steelers. Please.
I didn't. It's the off season.
It's the off season.
That is a cardinal sin, and Steelers fans really need to accept this. During the Steelers game, your focus is the Steelers. That's it.
Unless you got Pat Fireman for nothing.
Especially if the assholes on the opposing team are on your fantasy team. Shut the fuck up and watch the Steelers play. All right?
Right.
Thank you. End of rant.
Okay. Now, I think what we could have done is probably just skipped everything we talked about and just said the Steelers will be drafting Carson Strong out of Nevada.
Fuck you, Mark.
Well, look.
In the third round or fourth round, sure.
No offense to the young man. He's a hard worker.
How about the fifth round?
But my God, the poor kid looks like he's standing in concrete most of the time.
He's even slower than Mason, if that is possible.
He's had so many injuries to the knee. I give him all the credit in the world. But, I mean, if the Steelers drafted this kid, I'd be stunned.
He's got a cannon. I'll give him that. But he cannot move.
He had terrible receivers. He makes some beautiful throws that guys just can't catch. Yep. But my God, if a guy comes up the middle, he turtles. He's got no chance.
I mean, yeah.
There's no way. And if Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert are talking about mobility as a huge factor for a quarterback, then there's no way in hell it's going to be Carson Strong. There's no way. Not even in the later rounds. I don't think personally, but
Actually, I want to bring something else up here. That. Considering the fact that on this quarterback tour they've been on, it's been Tomlin, Colbert, Canada, and Brandon Hunt.
Yes.
Do do we think that gives Brandon Hunt any
Omar
edge
was in
on the
Omar
GM
was in
job?
Cincinnati.
Omar was
Okay,
in
Omar's
Cincinnati
in
today.
Cincinnati.
So, and honestly, I
That's fair.
I question why Omar was there. He doesn't watch film, doesn't scout players. Why was he there?
I still think it's a combination.
Optics,
I still think it's Hunt.
Optics. The Steelers didn't want to insult him, so they took him along to this pro date.
I think that's a big part of what it was. And they're up to what now? 12 people they've interviewed for the GM job.
They don't keep track anymore. When they
don't seem to be in any hurry.
Like, okay, here's the guy. Let me look at him. Take a long look at him and see what I think, and we'll go from there.
I mean,
so sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Ryan.
I look at Omar's position as whether or not they hire a GM, he still has a role.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
So big role.
And listen, we all have careers. We understand that titles mean something. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But Omar's been with the Steelers a very, very long time, and credit to him. He's part of that organizational stability, and whether or not he gets that GM job, I don't think that necessarily matters because he's always been part of the player personnel process and the contract process. So I said this months ago on the show, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a co-general manager or whatever with Omar and Brandon Hunt. But yeah, I mean,
it won't surprise me if they go back to what they did before Kevin was around.
Yep.
Where they have a director of football operations.
Yep.
Which is what Kevin initially was. In 2000.
Well, that's very true.
You're right.
And then his role evolved, and he became the guy who oversaw all of it. He was the man. That was about 2005, 2006 that Kevin kind of became the guy. As Cowher was going out, Kevin, took all of it. And it made sense. It just made sense. And again, that was about stability too. But it would not shock me if they went back to a kind of a deal where they split up the administrative and the football roles.
Right.
So they said to Brandon, you're going to be our director of football operations, and Omar, you're going to continue in your role. And we value you. We appreciate you. We want you to be an integral part of this process. But, you're not a guy who scouts players. You're not a guy who runs scouts. And we need that in this role.
And listen, as a good coach, you only do what your players are capable of. You know what I mean? So I think that's smart. So from an organizational, same from an organizational standpoint, you only put your people in positions where they can succeed. And I think that's the smart thing to do because, and I'll tell you this, if they lost either Brandon or Omar, it would hurt the organization. Sure. If they lost both, it would be tough, real tough. Yeah, so, and that's kudos to both of them.
Guys, let me, before we wrap things up tonight, I want to talk about Deshaun Watson.
We got time?
Yeah, we got plenty of time. Is Duke down by 20 yet?
Easy.
Okay.
It's halftime.
I want to talk about Deshaun Watson. A couple of things here. Most notably about this is that I think Steelers fans are going through this. Some Steelers fans are going through this period where they believe that because of what they had to endure with Ben Roethlisberger and the allegations against him in 2010, that now all of a sudden they get to now turn it around and put it on the Browns fans who ridiculed us for so long. And I guess turnabout is fair play. Whatever.
Pretty much, it's two allegations versus 22 allegations. 23.
Right. I mean,
there was one woman who dropped out. There was a 23rd person who said, "Fuck this! I don't want my name public. I'm out. Bye."
And I think all four of us, definitely Ryan, have greater insight into the things that Ben Roethlisberger was involved in than most fans. I feel very confident in saying that.
Okay.
As far as Deshaun Watson, I think the Browns are desperate to get to the Super Bowl. And I think Deshaun Watson is a terrific football player. I'm not going to deny that. I think he's very good. But I think maybe they've sold their souls here to a certain extent. And 22, 23 women, I have a hard time believing that's a group of women that just got together and said, let's just screw this guy over. It doesn't mean all of them are saying this happened, that it's true. But, man, I go with the old adage, smoke, fire type thing. Ben, what's your feeling on the Browns signing this guy?
Pretty much what you just pointed out. I mean, basically, common sense, guys. I mean, there are 23 accusers here. 23. Right. Are they all telling the truth? Probably not.
Yeah.
Are they all lying? Probably not.
Right.
Okay. And these are all very similar allegations. All of them.
Yep.
At best, he went into a situation where he said, no, I don't want to use team-provided, NFL-approved masseuses. I would rather go to Instagram and troll around for some massage therapists on Instagram and book them for one-time visits. And he did this no fewer than 50 times, 50. 50 times, okay? And he acknowledges that in some of those instances, it came to consensual sex. So at best, he went into this hoping to use the power differential in that situation to exchange that for sexual favors, okay? At worst, he's a sexual predator. He's a predator. He's that guy.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
In my opinion, if he did what he's been accused of to even half of the women that have accused him, which is probably a low number, he's a fucking scumbag. I'm glad the Steelers didn't take him.
I am too.
Did not try to trade for him. I'm glad they had zero interest. That's where I'm at. And you guys, there's a lot more to be said, and I'm just going to pass the baton to Ryan, and he'll go ahead and light you all up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, good. Ryan, what do you got, man?
I mean, I'm still surprised by the amount of Steelers fans that were so do whatever you can do. Even Stephen A. Smith was like, Steelers, do whatever you could do to get this guy. Are you fucking kidding me?
You're right.
Like, are you fucking kidding me? And yeah, I have a beef with Stephen A. because he talked shit on me after that whole AB thing, and I'm going to say it now because I got a platform. Yeah, he was like, Scarpino, is that his name? It's like, shut up. You don't know me. You don't know me. Actually, you do know me because when you needed a private area to do your radio show, I made sure it happened. He ain't watching this show, and if he is, blasphemous. Anyway, the point is, I'm
going to make sure he gets a copy now.
No, please don't. Please don't. I don't need that. I don't need all that hate in my life anymore. But the point is, the number of people that were number of Steelers fans, particularly female Steelers fans, they were like, do whatever you can to get Deshaun Watson here.
Shocked.
I'm sorry. Listen.
Blown away.
And I worked there. My first month of that job was dealing with Ben's accusations. And I'm going to say this about Ben, and I don't want to do whataboutism, but Ben had 2 accusations, okay?
Yep.
Lake Tahoe and Milledgeville. And I'm going to say this. We're talking about a situation, and I know it's private for Deshaun Watson too, but at least one of those situations, Ben was at a bar, and he shouldn't have been there. And I'm not excusing Ben's behavior in any means.
Agree.
Ben, 2 wrongs don't make it right. But Deshaun Watson was looking for private masseuses, right? Yep. He is looking for private masseuses. 20+ accusations. Ben had 2. Again, I don't condone what Ben did. Ben shouldn't even been in that situation. Okay, but I'm going to get back to this. Bottom line is, Steelers fans were ready to throw whatever they could to get Aaron Rodgers, to get Russell Wilson. And when those weren't going to happen, we're going to say, oh, do whatever you can to get Deshaun Watson in here, a guy that has 20 plus women saying that he's a sexual predator. And then the majority of those, this is Twitter, and I know Twitter's not real life, but at least on Twitter, the amount of female fans were like, we need bring Deshaun Watson here. We need that next franchise quarterback. And then when he signs with the Browns, they all get their Jesus necklace on and get all self-righteous. That was Kesha, but
I love K $sign ha.
They get their self-righteousness on, and they're like, oh, hey, Browns fans, hey, you used to talk shit on Ben, don't talk shit on us anymore. As if whatever Ben did was okay. None of it is okay. None of what Ben did was okay. It's all bullshit. So anyway, bottom line, Deshaun Watson basically got $10 million for every accusation. $10 million guaranteed for every accusation.
Yep. Yeah.
And I will never, ever say a good word about the Browns again. And I understand that I worked for the Steelers during that time. Didn't condone any of Ben's actions, but there's a huge difference between 2 in separate times and 20 plus in a group of time. Thank you for listening. I say that all the time.
And that has been the Ryan Scarpino Minute here on SteelCityBlitz.com.
My TED Talk. Thank you.
So you guys pretty much summarized everything I would have said. So I'll just say,
sorry,
fuck him and fuck the Browns.
Yeah,
That's that.
Well, and I'll add this too.
Don't forget that. And Snyder. No, what is his name?
Jimmy Haslam. A former Steelers
minority owner. You would think that he had learned something.
He did not.
You would think. And I don't, and I get it. He was just a shareholder. He had nothing to do with the day-to-day. But did he pay attention at all? I mean,
okay.
Ryan, what?
No. Sorry, go ahead. I'm going to look something up real quick before I say it.
I was going to say, wasn't Jimmy Haslam involved in some other criminal case?
Thank you.
Flying J,
football.
Truck
basically, they were skimming on
what had to do with the trucking industry.
The pilot, he owns Pilot.
Yeah,
Flying J or whatever. The truck stops.
Yes,
there was something about that.
They were skimming on.
Yeah. The Browns are just a shit organization. And
they had poker machines there, you know?
Yeah, whatever. That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm sorry, if you're dumb enough to drop $100 into a poker machine,
that's not what it was.
I don't have a lot of sympathy for you. That's me. But they're just a fucking shit organization. The whole thing, basically. What it amounts to was their exhaustive research was they sat down with Deshaun Watson and they talked to him for 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
They accepted Deshaun Watson endorsement of Deshaun Watson and said, okay, it's cool. We're good.
Don't forget, they also talked with Deshaun Watson's legal team to say, is he okay?
Yeah.
And his
legal
team.
They talked to the women on the legal team.
The victims.
Right.
They talked to the females on Deshaun Watson's legal team.
Right. The people Deshaun Watson is paying to represent him.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I'm gonna say this too. Like I worked there and yes, there were many times where I had to put my personal feelings aside for the greater good, right? But Ben completely changed his persona, right? You get the motorcycle accident, you got, the Notre Dame jersey at the SB Awards with that like really pencil thin goatee. You remember he had that like look?
He must cringe when he looks back at that.
I mean that
I hope he does.
And then that 09 season, when he had like the mustache and the long hair and he was a little extra, he had a little extra LBs on him. Yeah. He had some extra pounds on him. And then it leads into Milledgeville. He has that devil T-shirt on. And then after that, it was a complete 180. He's doing his charity work. He gets married. He has a family. So I say that about Deshaun Watson because I don't know him personally, but I remember working with Ben and just sitting there and being like, okay, this guy's a human being first and foremost. He's more than just a football player.
Good point.
But I don't want to say only 2 accusations, but the accusations, there were 2 in separate instances in a 4-year span. For somebody like Deshaun Watson, this is just so many accusations in a short amount of time.
Right.
And again, I wasn't there. I don't know if he's guilty or not, but he has a chance to turn his career around, but I would not have paid him $230 million guaranteed because of his football abilities.
Insane.
And somehow that overshadows his humanity or whatever,
And I understand the desire to hope this thing blows up in the Browns' faces. I get it.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake, I'm right there with you. I hope it does blow up in their faces. But just looking at it from a big picture standpoint, this is not a good guy. This is not a good guy. Why would you do that? And that's my thing when I'm looking at it. And even when Steelers fans wanted him at the very beginning, I was like, you know what? This is never going to go away. Never. And if I'm Art, I'm looking at this going, yeah, I don't want to defend that. It was hard enough the first time 10 years ago. I don't want to do this again. And this is way bigger. This is like Bill Cosby territory. I'm not doing it. Bye.
And from a purely football standpoint, let's not forget too, he hasn't played in a year. So he hasn't.
He may not play this year.
And he may not play this right, or even half.
He's missing at least 6 to 8 games.
Yeah,
minimum.
There's, you're gambling from a purely football standpoint, and I agree with everything everybody said. I'm not discounting that, but from a purely football standpoint, you're also gambling $230 million guaranteed dollars on a guy who won't have played in a year and a half.
Yeah. And
when he did play, was a bit of a turnover machine.
He has a record of 28 and 26.
Yeah. I mean, he's got the arm strength, he's got the ability, but
it was anybody but Mason
over a lot.
No,
anybody
Ian.
but Mason.
No, Ian. I'm sorry.
Ryan.
I'm good with that. I'm good with anybody but Mason per se, but not that guy.
And sorry, I had to say, but no, I mean, and it's funny. It's funny you mentioned the is he going to play this year, Ben? Because I mean, according to Steelers Twitter, when Steelers Twitter wanted him so much, they told me, "What makes you think he's going to get suspended?" Oh, I don't know. The fact that Ben got 4 games for not being accused, 6 to 4 for not being accused in 2010 versus 12 years later after a wide receiver got suspended for a year because he put $1,500 on. Who puts $1,500 on an 18 parlay, by the way? But the point is like, what do you mean he's not going to be suspended?
Paid an 18 parlay. What would that have paid?
18 parlay for $1,500.
$1,500, like $100,000.
That would have been a lot of money. 8-teamer for 10 is probably 1,800. Times 100 is 18,000. So, it's big. Yeah. 100K.
It's a shit ton of money.
I think so. I think I got my mentals on track.
He didn't even win, and he lost a season in the NFL. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
The outrage from female fans over that, and it has more to do with the fact that the NFL does not punish woman beaters the way they're punishing Ridley.
I completely agree.
And as one of you mentioned earlier in our discussions, you potentially could have a Cleveland backfill of Kareem Hunt and Deshaun Watson.
It's a scumbag backfield.
Yeah.
But Be that as it may, we're going to wrap things up here on this edition of the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated. Make sure you visit the website at steelcityblitz.com. Also on Twitter at SCB, or wait, what is it on? Yeah, SC Blitz. And then, of course, the podcast is
Do you know what our Twitter handle is?
I've had a little bit too much alcohol. Anyway, just visit us.
We've had some drinks.
We've had some drinks.
Show for us.
Anyway, just keep listening, and so on and so forth. Anyway, that's it for us. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll be back next week with another exciting, informative, and highly opinionated edition. And as always,
anyway.
You got that right. As always, go Steelers.
Ravens suck.
Fuck the Browns.